Okay, this is a really big deal. This is something that could literally change the entire game, and the philosophy here could be applied through the entire video game's PvE structures. So I really want to have a look at this and hear your guys' thoughts on this. Okay, so I'm going to read this whole post. This is talking about the season 4 loot changes. Okay, I have not read a second of this yet, but I will tell you that before we start, I have some big expectations from what I'm about to hear. So let's read it. Today, we'd like to share some of our reward plans for season 4. And again, the whole thing about season 4, like I don't really like a lot of the concepts, but it's all going to depend on how gearing and power work. Anyway, regarding the acquisition and effectiveness of raid gearing overall, as we head from 9.2's class set and creation catalyst designs into Dragonflight, our team has been doing a lot of thinking about our reward philosophies, including acquiring loot and how it might be improved. Season 4 presents a unique opportunity for us to try some experimental changes that might be too volatile for a regular season, but could still provide us with valuable data and feedback we can use to improve the game long term. It's worth noting that the systems we'll be talking about today are designed around specific goals to fit with Season 4's shorter runtime. It's very possible that even if they're received well, they may undergo significant iterations to match the cadence and intended progression of a normal season of content. I already have so many things to say, but let's just keep reading. Regardless, we want to show that we're interested in continuing to approach rewards from different angles and listen to players' desires for increased bad luck protection and making sure in-game rewards feel like they're matching players' efforts. Without further ado, let's get into some specifics. Raid vendors and limited currency. Season 4 will feature a trio of broker vendors suspiciously skulking around the Great Vault. Each of these brokers has wares from one of the 3 Shadowlands raids. They will sell trinkets, weapons, and other special items from their respective raid. And this is like the biggest, like, this is why I'm so interested on this. The rest I really couldn't give a shit about, but it's interesting items. To hear them say special items, you know? Each of these items will have the same price, a single puzzling cartel dinar each, with one catch. We will only be able to get 3 puzzling cartel dinars for the entire season. Oh, wow. After spending your last dinar, the brokers leave town and take their wares with them. Wow, that's interesting. Items sold by these vendors will be at the Season 4 normal faded item level range of 278 to 285, depending on the item. Ah, that's interesting. To acquire them, any Shadowlands raid after Season 4 begins to start a 3-part quest line. Oh my god. These quests will require you to kill a certain number of unique fated bosses from the Season 4 raid Affix is active. The quests reward you with 1 puzzling cartel dinar upon completion and will progress to the next part of the quest. At the moment, this is set to require 30 kills, 20 kills, and 10 kills, making your second and third coin come faster as the time goes on. 30 is a lot, especially because you're only going to have 1 raid a week. But maybe not, though. I don't know. This system, and this is probably should be based on the difficulty of the raid. I don't know how they're handling that yet. Anyway, the system initially came about to mitigate the rotational nature of Season 4's raids. Each player has fewer chances to see any individual piece of loot when Fated Sylvanas or Fated Jailer is only killable every 3 weeks. So we really want to see how players respond to the idea of having a limited but deterministic way to target individual pieces from raid. We also have a story of going months and months on end, killing a specific boss every week without ever seeing a desired raid item. And our hope is this goes a long way to curbing extreme bad luck in the worst cases. At the same, that's fucking genius, actually. At the same time, we don't want to shortcut the experience of actually playing the game. It shouldn't be possible for someone to simply buy their best in slot setup from a vendor week 1 of a given season, and it's very possible that this implementation still undercuts some of the sense of progressing your character. That said, we've heard calls for something like this and feel Season 4 is the best time to try it out. Yeah, and the problem is here, the people calling for that they don't give a fuck. They want everything for free. So it's really good that Blizzard is actually like understanding what they're hearing and they're not just changing the way loot works, because that would be really bad. But no talk about Mythic Plus yet so far. I will just say that this system needs to be in Mythic Plus 100%. My recommendation is just make it so you can turn any item into any other item, like with the Great Vault, or like with the Creation Catalyst, where you can change a regular piece of gear into a tier piece. That system should exist, hopefully, for the rest of time. And if you have trinkets that you don't want, you can maybe even turn 2 of them into 1. I don't really know what they should do. But it's the same way with trinkets and certain items like Poxstorm and certain weapons and stuff. It's extremely unlikely to get them from the Great Vault, let alone from the dungeon. And the problem here is also with raids. Let me tell you what the problem, and we'll continue reading. The problem here is there's way too many fucking items. Like, it's ridiculous how many items there are in this video game, and that worked well in Legion and BFA when the loot chances were so much higher. It's basically like 20 to 25% more loot, and then there was the bonus roll, and all that. But now they changed it to be like a lot harder to get loot in Shadowlands, and they ultimately added an extra item per boss kill as well. But it was like really, really low at the start of the season, and that was because they removed Titan forging. So they were thinking like, okay, well, we don't need loot to be that common if you're always going to get the best possible item every time, and everything's going to be tuned around that. So this experiment has just been a wholly, honestly, just a complete disaster in my eyes. All the people who basically forced Titan forging to be removed from the game, like, they fucked this game like so hard, it's actually insane. The game systems and like the way loot was working, especially with Mythic Plus, it just couldn't. You can't do that. Like, it was there, and it was built like kind of like a connected part that couldn't be removed, and they kind of ripped it out. And then yeah, we've been dealing with the problems for literally a year and a half now. So yeah, thanks a lot if you were one of these people. But yeah, you really killed the gearing process for a lot of people. And they're finally getting back to where we wanted to be. And ultimately, this will probably be better. So let's read now how you're going to upgrade items. Additionally, we're exploring ways for raiders to upgrade raid loot as they move up in difficulty. In Season 4, killing bosses on Heroic or Mythic difficulty will drop a shard of an upgrade item. Upon collecting enough, currently 20, we will combine the upgraded. Will combine to upgrade faded gear to their heroic or mythic versions, respectively. Unlike the puzzling cartel dinar, which has a quest you must complete to earn them over time, these upgrade shards begin dropping on day 1 of the season and are at 100% drop rate, allowing you to capture effort progressing week over week from the get-go. These upgrade items will work on any of the items with a faded tag, including those sold by the brokers previously mentioned. Oh, that's really cool. But wait, let's read this again. Yeah, you have to actually do mythic to get the mythic ones, I guess, right? Or maybe not. No, I guess not. It's just anything could upgrade anything, it seems. Okay, the upgraded system combined with the puzzling cartel dinar vendors will allow players to effectively buy up to 3 pieces of heroic or mythic raid gear, assuming you're doing difficult enough content enough to build reserves of receiving upgrade shards to begin with. So it's like, the question I immediately have is, you can upgrade it to mythic even if you only do heroic, because that's obviously where I'm at now. If so, wow, great, honestly. While having a heroic or mythic upgrade item still requires you to have the base item drop for you in some way, this means that the option of running other raid difficulties to get your desired piece is available for people wanting to go the extra mile. Similarly, this allows guilds that start from normal and move into heroic, or heroic and move into mythic, the ability to carry some of their favorite items with them as they progress. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, so you can get the item on normal and then just keep going with it instead of having to replace it every difficulty. Often, if a guild can't hit a specific breakpoint, like progressing, say, on a new boss kill or Great Vault threshold, it can feel like the time spent reclearing up to those points can be wasted effort. That's true, actually. It's actually kind of crazy. Like, the beginning of Sepulchre has not a single fucking piece that anybody wants. Anyway, we hope that this creates more value for simply killing bosses with your group, while also allowing those who dip their toes into higher difficulties, like, say, a guild that can do 3 mythic bosses per week, the ability to save up to a moment of excitement that both rewards your effort over time, as well as making it easier to make deeper strides into achieving your rating goals. Okay, so I'm just gonna buy the Jailer Maze and upgrade that shit to Mythic as fast as possible. I don't give a fuck about anything else. Actually, that's not true. We also want the Trinket. Adelhide's Aegis. We'll be able to use that again now. And yeah, that's my 2 for sure. Season 4 is an exciting time where we're trying lots of things WoW has never done before, and we're similarly excited to see how these systems play out for raiders engaging with the new faded affixes when it all goes live. We'll be monitoring feedback closely and answering more questions in the thread, so let us know what you think. I'm telling you right now, like, I literally, it's all about loot. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, the content, it's whatever. Like I said multiple times, I don't really like the idea of raids. I definitely don't like the idea of affixes in raids. I don't really like the idea of changing Mythic Plus wildly every season. It doesn't fucking matter, dude. At the end of the day, I am 10 times more excited about what I've just read now and has got me excited for season 4 than like, than I was disappointed because of the other changes. It could literally be a gray block. If I could be fighting a gray square in a gray room, and as long as the gameplay of my character and everything else is engaging, I'm fucking going, man. Like, I cannot believe this is awesome. I really hope that they can learn. So I'll tell you right now about why this definitely won't appear exactly as it is in the future. One, because this is good for a raid when first of all, there's even more raid loot, right? Like they said it there. We have problems with this type of thing in the game right now where there's just way too many items and not enough time to get it, especially for people who aren't playing like an immense amount. So when you only have the one raid to deal with, and this problem doesn't exist anymore, at least in their eyes. I mean, I think it still exists no matter what, but there's a lot less items to worry about. The other thing is like to be able to buy any piece of gear, even if you haven't killed the boss. That's not going to work in a raid where everybody needs to progress through it to, be competent. Like imagine if you can just buy the jailer mace without ever even seeing the jailer, and if there was items like that in the raids that would heavily upset like the balance of the raid, it's unlikely that that would ever happen. But that being said, I think there's a lot of ways that they can use this system in the future. My big complaint, and I'll say it again here, is that there's just way too many items and is way too many trinkets, like especially trinkets, but also things like weapons and like that Anduin ring. I still have never even seen that. Like, does that even exist? So I don't even know. Like those types of things. Like I've gotten a million rings. If I can turn one of those rings into the Anduin ring, I'm ready to go. But you can't just have pure deterministic loot. They actually did like a whole thing about this in BFA. There was like a Q&A and they answered exactly why. And they kind of talk about it here. But I'll refresh you on that because I know a lot of people probably don't play during BFA. The reason you can't ever have pure deterministic loot is because then there's the ability to calculate exactly when and where your characters will gain power. So if you know that after like say 10 boss loots, you'll get a weapon, right? Well, that's a different problem. They also mentioned that it's like everybody's going to choose the exact same item every week, so it's like just going to be like gradual nerfs to the raid across the board. And they're right about that because that's how it worked with like PvP gear, and probably still does if that's how PvP still works. Everybody just buys the weapon and the chest and the trinket or something like that. But that's a different problem. I don't really care about that. But in terms of like raid design and concepts here, my problem is that you actually know when you're going to get power. So, for example, like this still kind of happens with like the Great Vault, especially early in the season. You're on a boss and you're like, you're a bunch of pulls into the boss and you're like, I don't know if we have the numbers for this. You know what I mean? So instead of continuing to try the boss, people would just be like, all right, just stop. Next week we get an item upgrade and it's easy. And so when that happens in the beginning of a season, it's like, well, okay, whatever. That's how gearing works. Of course, you get a guaranteed item from the vault, and that's kind of impacted the game in some way, but you're not guaranteed to get a weapon. You know what I mean? But so these power gains, like people would be able to spreadsheet them up to such a degree that you would know exactly how much power. There'd be sims for weapon week and tier week and all these things like. And so when you play the game that way, it takes a lot of the fun out of it for like, people who aren't super serious about the game. And you would have these types of situations like, oh, why did you not take a weapon? You know what I mean? Why did you take a boots? Why would you take boots? You know what I mean? So like that's just kind of a social thing, but that's the reason that there will never be deterministic gear because there's supposed to be some kind of randomness to it. The problem though is that there's just way too many items. I don't think getting an item is difficult. It's just getting the item you want. And oftentimes not even just the slot. Like I'm talking about the exact item. That's just ridiculous in this game right now. So let's hope that we will see something about Mythic Plus too, because we still haven't heard about Mythic Plus. I don't. There's not been another post, right? Yeah, I am very interested in hearing how they're going to handle Mythic Plus, to be honest, because that's a lot more important to me than rating right now. But this is great. This is really great.